Terry, I see your screen. Terry Schmitz, he's the owner of Conover Company. He's going to be talking about mental health needs in the wake of COVID-19. And yeah, with that, I'll let you, Terry, get started the first 15 or so minutes, and I'll jump in after.
All right. Thanks, Art. Welcome, everybody. My name is Terry Schmitz, as Art said. I started the Conover Company quite a few years ago now. And I'm going to discuss, first of all, our connection to this industry of mental health. We started out about 50 years ago, and we were developing programs, for soft skills and mental health. And we connected with two consulting psychologists at Texas A&M University, Dr. Darwin Nelson, Dr. Gary Lowe, and then later on, Dr. Richard Hammett. And we worked with them probably now for, it's got to be about 20 years. And they developed the first emotional intelligence assessment called the Personal Skills Map. And that Personal Skills Map has been used now about 10 million times now. That's a large number for an assessment. And there's 134 master's and doctoral level research reports to it. And from that, we first began to work with them in the 1980s. And we developed 8 emotional intelligence programs off of the first connection we have, which was a personal skills map with them. And from that, we developed a whole series of programs that go into the mental health needs. And I have a graphic up here, mental health needs in the wake of COVID-19. And basically, what had happened is pretty obvious. By being home and not being connected with people much, mental health became much more of an upfront issue in the schools, but as well as in our society. And nearly half of the schools surveyed did not have the staff needed to meet students' mental health needs. This was done in February 2022. And Education Week research was. And the way I look at it is, here's what's going on, is that there's a crisis, and it deals with depression, conflict, behavior issues, bullying, being alone, basically. And then from that, under the line here, this weed, there's fear, poor self-esteem, worry, anger, anxiety, stress, emotion. Those are all, triggers for emotion, for the issue of mental wellness. So if you don't address the root of the problem grows. And that's what our programs are attempting to do, is to work on those basic causes for this problem that we're having with our society. So we assess, we teach, and we measure growth. That's what all of our products are doing. And they're online, and there's a management system, and Art's going to talk about that, so I won't go into that, but it's all run through that learning management system. And it doesn't add anything to your workload other than enrolling a student in the program. And then from there, you can use it either as a self-directed program, anytime, anywhere, any device, but we also have an instructor-led version. Most people will use both of those, and will have that at their disposal, both of those. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is talk about this right here. This is a little graphic we made back about that time. And what it is explaining in simple terms is that there are 4 things that, as fear develops, and there's a lot of fear in our society right now, then worry, fear isn't controlled, it goes to worry, then anxiety, and then depression. Okay, and that's pretty much how it works in every one of us. And so what you have to do is address these things at the early stages if possible. Okay, the anxiety affects about 1 in 5 adults, and it affects about 50%, as I showed you in the graphic, of students in our society. So let's take a closer look then at another thing I have here, and that is this right here. I did this about 2 days ago. It's an AI overview, a search. There it is. And following COVID pandemic, mental health needs have increased significantly, and factors like social isolation, job losses, financial strain, impacting people's well-being, leading to a higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide. So, more of a breakdown of that. The pandemic has been linked to a substantial rise in anxiety and depression cases globally, with an estimate of 25% increase. These are the stress factors. A stressor is something that triggers stress. Okay, it's like when you see something that you do not like, it's a stressor, and from that stressor it triggers a whole series of reactions in stress, which leads to, if it's not controlled, into a whole lot of problems. And so the stressors that we see now are social isolation, which was done by COVID-19, economic strain, job losses, financial difficulties, uncertainty about the future. I mean, all of that's going on right now in our society. And fear and uncertainty, the constant fear of infection, illness, death. Those are all things that are causing a lot of issues for people. And then there's this thing called grief, and it has to do with people that have died from the pandemic. All of those things were triggered by the pandemic. And groups that are higher at risk: young people, women, healthcare workers, people with pre-existing conditions. Okay, and this is an AI overview that I was able to pull off of the internet. And so,
hey, Terry, I don't want to lose sight of, I'm just hearing you talk too, and you kind of breezed over it at the beginning, but I want to come back to, because one of the main points I put on the landing page for this webinar was discover research-based assessments, learn how to measure and track key mental wellness, which I'll get into that, how that works. But the research,
sure.
Some people are, like, my goal is to get people into the workplace, or to prepare them for a job, or to get them work ready. So can you speak on a little bit more of the research on our tools? Because I think, well, number one, I know you breezed over it, but number two, you've done this. So I just want you to speak on a little bit more on the research, if you don't mind, on the validity and reliability and that.
Sure. Okay. This is the toolkit. Okay. And let me just give you just a little bit of background. And it's about cognitive behavioral therapy. That's what the focus of these programs are. Okay. And the idea behind it is that you feel bad about yourself for whatever reason, and that thought process stays with you and builds up more and more and more of a problem for people. Anxiety, anger, those types of things. So can cognitive behavioral therapy help? And this, it sure can. It starts with teaching people how to verbalize and control your statements, because those statements become your feelings. Your feelings become your thoughts. That leads to your behaviors. Now you've established a habit. And so with cognitive behavioral therapy, we try to stop that cycle. Now, when it comes to research behind it, here's the basic group. There's a basic norm group, and this goes back to the late 70s, but it's going on right now. I mean, we have 134 plus research reports being done on our assessment tools in the emotional intelligence world. The original research was the norm group was 1,400, and that was kind of what we were after there with the psychologists. What's the normal level of personal skills for a population, and then from that. The validity studies we go into, there's basically three. There's the healthy, the normal, and the below average. And so it begins with a research group comprised of skilled professionals in the mental wellness and behavior science field. Okay, and these are doctors, master's level professionals, psychologists, social psychotherapists, human development educators, those types of things. The second group, that's the normal group, because we want to compare that to the third group, which is comprised of persons voluntarily seeking counseling and psychology services from outpatient treatment. That's where this all began. Okay. These studies now began in 1974, and they're still going on now. And there are 134 master's and doctoral level research reports and articles written on the personal skills map. The personal skills map, along with another assessment called personal responsibility, which is about goal setting, and it's about self-management skills and self-control. Those are all parts of the programs that Art's going to talk about in a few minutes in relationship to the mental health toolkit.
I just wanted to piggyback off of this because, one of the things that we often see in the world of online resources and tools is stuff is not valid and reliable. It's not research-based. Not that it won't eventually get there, maybe, right? A new and up and coming tool. But what we did was take this and try to standardize the process with making difficult things like mental health and a person's mental well-being, and try to simplify it in that let's look at some common language, common results to build those relationships and look at those results. So through this norming and through these studies that are ongoing, we've kind of done that and continue to hone and tweak and make better. For most of you here, I believe, you have access to our tools already. So obviously we're going to get into that a little bit. But for this part, and thank you so much, Terry. And by the way, Terry, he's an email or a phone call away. If you have some information or resources that you need from him or want to ask further questions, just shoot him an email. That's usually the best way because he's usually answering at 10 p.m. at night anyway, weekends, you name it. But, just looking at continually making sure that our tools are going to be effective in their implementation. So
I might add this, Art,
please.
That I often get requests from graduate students that are in a doctoral or master's degree program, and where they want to use our instruments because they're valid instruments. And if somebody's interested in that, just let me know.
Beautiful.
Okay, Art.
No. Yeah, thank you. In fact, I'll pull this one up. This is the most recent one in the relationship of emotional intelligence to academic achievement. So we have many, but this is yet another one that happened within the last, I don't know when Dr. Rice did this one, but basically correlating that if you improve emotional intelligence, measure, teach, and post-assess emotional intelligence, academics are going to go up. And so it's so often we see with academic institutions and certain programs where outcomes are measured by either standardized tests or GPAs or, credentials earned, certifications. And that stuff's important, right? Because that's how you obviously learn and then attain higher wages and all that stuff. But sometimes we focus on only that side of things without looking at the other side, mental well-being and mental health, which is what we do. And it's almost at the expense of that. And so what's nice is the relationship of, hey, if you improve these emotional intelligence skills, all of the other stuff like academics will go up. So why don't we do that, in conjunction? So it's interesting nonetheless. So For this part of the webinar, I'm going to jump into the actual product, right? Conover Online, and share how this works and how to make the assignments within the different areas and look at the results. So this is the piece that's going to talk about the proven curriculum, the proven assessments, and how to implement this and walk away with the technique to do so. And you do that through Conover Online. And so first step here is creating an account. I won't necessarily get into this because that's pretty straightforward, right? You create a user, you put him or her into the system, create account. So once they're in there, the person that you're going to be working with, you can then click on that person. Let's just pick Addison Banks for today's demonstration. So with Addison, you're going to see this pocket of programs right in the middle, emotional intelligence. And let me zoom in just a bit to make it bigger. So we also have some career exploration and assessment tools and some independent living skills tools and life skills tools. That's going to be more predominantly for individuals with disabilities. A lot of special education programs, voc rehab programs, service providers will use that piece down in there in green. But the emotional intelligence program or programs are where all the stuff Terry's talking about or talked about is located. Okay, and so Success Profiler is focused on emotional intelligence. Personal responsibility is focused on goal setting and goal achieving. Workplace readiness is all about the soft skills in the workplace. Some people, I talked to someone earlier today and he's like, I don't like soft skills. They're essential skills. It's like, I don't care what you call them. It's the same thing, you know. Financial success is financial literacy. And then these three down in here, anger, anxiety, and bullying, are kind of self-explanatory. And one of the most underutilized programs, but also I think really cool one, is called Winning Colors. It's about communication and conflict resolution. And the basis of it is we're identifying an individual's communication style, you know, with colors. So like blue adventurer, or blue relator, excuse me, red adventurer. And then from there, how do you communicate with the other colors? Like, who's a brown builder? They're going to communicate differently than me, the blue relator. So how do we communicate with one another? So it's really cool because it simplifies the way in which we can communicate and get through that conflict. So let's go into, for example, Success Profiler. This is the flow. This is what, you know, again, Terry talked about, but I just want to show you the flow of like what a user sees. And one note is that regardless of the program that we have, whether it's workplace readiness, anxiety management, anger management, you name it, financial literacy, it follows the same flow. And the reason we did that is because if you can use one and you learn one, you can use them all. It's designed the same exact way. It's just that we swap out the focus, we swap out the competencies. So, for example, personal skills map. That's the first thing that we want them to do, whether it's personal skills map, whether it's the workplace readiness program, whether it's anxiety management. First thing we want to do is measure, where are you at with these skills? So we'll give a brief introduction, talking about that journey that we're going to take, that map that we want to map out for them. And then we jump into the actual questions. So this looks like this, right? When I'm really angry with someone, I usually feel some tension or worry, but comfortable in expressing exactly what is on my mind so they can answer. And what happens is, as the individuals answer these questions, behind the scenes, we're tracking and scoring and tabulating. So we're documenting all that information, time on task, what they scored, you know, how they answered. All of that data is being tabulated. And at the end of the day, you're going to get results like this. What's nice about these results are you don't have to be a psychologist or psychiatrist. Now, again, the validity, the reliability, all that is there. The interpretive guides to really dive deep and go into this stuff, it's all there. You can, and you're able to. But let's face it, when we're working with students, they don't really know, and sometimes they don't really care, right? When you're working with adults that have families and they're trying to pay bills and they're stressed with life, this is like what's great about the results are they're categorized in 3 different categories. Red develop, meaning you don't have the skill, we have to develop the skill, or you don't have much of it. Yellow is strengthen, meaning you got to lift some weights, right? You got it, but let's get a little bit better. And then enhance. Enhance is great. You got the skill, but let's just enhance. Let's tweak, make some minor changes and improve even better. Because no one can be perfect and no one can be the absolute terrible, right? Like worst. So, because it's kind of like a bell curve is how that's designed. And then the interpretation can be seen in 3 sentences to kind of get the ball rolling. What I like to call the snowball effect. You get to see what kind of picks up as you push it down the hill. And so if someone is yellow in interpersonal assertion or red in self-esteem, you can see, and I can say that, hey, Aaron Trubisky, sometimes direct with others under stress, but often he is not. He's not able at times to express his feelings or discuss things about which he has strong feelings. More often than not, he thinks to react correctly. So what's really great about this is the interpretations are all here. And again, you can go real deep and look at the standard and raw scores and again, go real deep. But one of the things I've talked about and I talk about a lot is near the bottom, change orientation, personal change orientation. And what this measures is a person's openness or willingness to change. And so this is going to be indicative of the opportunity for them to want to improve, right? So if they're scoring in the develop or strengthen for all of these, you think, man, this person needs a lot of work, right? But personal change orientation is high. They're open to change. They want to. Maybe they just don't even know how. Great. Let's talk about how. Let's provide that guidance to that person to help them change and improve and push into the strengthen and enhance for all those scales. So this map really does provide a roadmap for both the person and the individual. I'll get to that in a second, how, but also for the coach, the mentor, the counselor, right? To provide an opportunity to have those discussions about these skills and why they're important. Which, by the way, this is the study. This, when we talk about emotional intelligence and improving academics, this was the program that was studied. So going through this, improving these skills, these competencies you see over on the left, show an improvement in both GPAs, retention rates within programs. We did a study in the community college of dismissal due to low grades. That number was reduced. And so all of that factors into this specific program that we have. Okay, so on to the next step here. So, okay, they take this assessment. It gets a good gauge. We have those discussions. We talk about these things. We talk about next steps. I can provide some outside resources. I can say to read a book, sure. But also within our system, there is skill building. So if Aaron here scored really low in self-esteem, empathy, motivation, decision-making, and stress management, well, I can have him or Adrian or whomever go through those programs, those titles, those competencies. And so I can have my user go through those things. And these short videos of stress management, the short videos of motivation, decision-making, empathy, etc. You know, they're all 30, this one's 27 seconds. But the purpose, again, is to, number one, keep attention. We can argue whether or not, attentions being so short are good and bad. But instead of doing that, we decided to leverage the fact that that's what keeps attention, is these short snippets, hundreds, thousands, in fact, of videos. And then we can have them work through this concept of, like Terry mentioned, to kind of bring it back full circle, cognitive behavioral therapy. They're able to change, going back to this toolkit, this thing he showed, use verbal statements to control your feelings. Your feelings control your thoughts control your behaviors, and then your behaviors control your habits. You can form new habits. And so this is the beginning of that concept, is a standardized way to do that, a standardized way to kind of fill that circle and create those new positive habits with that. Because at the end, we have them walk through, we define what this skill is, what this competency is. We define it. We go through the how. So how do I manage my stress better? How do I become more empathetic? How do I deal with stressors? And then the how do I do the what, the why, the how. Those are the steps we take to get through that process to change that cognitive behavioral therapy. And then at the very end, there's a post-assessment to measure any growth. So we can see, hey, you maybe scored here in the pre, but this is just your map. This is your journey, your path. Let's see the post and see those improvements. And so you can see what self-esteem and interpersonal awareness was and is, assertion, etc. versus now. But all of those programs that Terry mentioned, I'm talking about obviously the personal skills map and the success profiler with where it started and kind of where we got our jump start. But all of the different programs follow that same flow of pre-assessment, curriculum, training, post-assessment. So you can obviously have that growth and then push that user on and propel them forward. So that's all I got. Any other, Terry, unless you want to add anything, I was going to kind of open the floor up here at the last bit for any questions that people had, but anything you'd like to add that I maybe missed or glossed over, please.
No, you did a good job, Art. Thank you. The way I see it is that this is about awareness, which is the front end assessment, and the skill building, the post assessment, and as Art mentioned, the management system tracking it and providing the person administering it with the data to back up everything that's happened. There is an instructor-led version as well, and my recommendation is to use the program, self-directed software, and then have maybe on Friday or whatever, pick a topic and have a discussion on it using the instructor-led version of it.
Good call out. Yes, I'm showing that now on the screen, the instructor-led version. But yes, you get access to a PDF workbook and then the content, the videos that you can play on a smart board or TV or whatever. But yes,
right. We have over 20,000 short videos in Conover, and we update them a lot, create new ones. But our theory is short little videos. Not only do we hopefully capture their attention, but it sets up the scenario. What we're going to teach next, let me show you this. And that's the purpose also of those videos.
Awesome. Where do you see the trend line in light of COVID and mental health and schools and everything? Where's kind of your final thoughts on the future? You've been such a good kind of guesser. I'm putting you on the spot, but
yeah, it's pretty obvious in my mind that all of this that's been going on in our society causes great fear, which leads to anxiety, leads to depression, and then hopefully it never gets to suicide. But those are the stumbling blocks as you go through. In our programs, we try and address it at the fear stage and help people get over the fear of it, because it just builds upon itself. And the longer you don't deal with it, the more problems come up.
No. Wonderful. Well, that is it. I don't see any more questions coming through. Look for more webinars. Our goal here, I was talking with Terry and also Matt, whom some of you know, is we want to provide as much value as possible in not only using our products, but overall big picture, kind of seeing where the trends are happening, what's the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing, you know, that sort of thing, which also facilitates that conversation with a lot of our customers and a lot of who uses our tools with the people that and the participants of their program. So we want to continue to do webinars like these, put together little pamphlets like these, like Terry has, you know, talking about cognitive behavioral therapy and reasons behind things. And so look for those in the coming months as we go throughout 2025. And always welcome your feedback, like Terry said, not only with some doctoral research and things with people getting their masters and PhDs and their thesis, but also just in general, you know, feedback and what's happening and what's going on. We love hearing that. So,
and we could probably, if I ask Dr. Darwin, Dr. Gary Lowe, Dr. Richard Hammett, the people that were the original developers, they would be willing to share their thoughts on some form of a webinar like this as well. Because way back in the early 1974 is when they first started doing this research, and it was all focused on mental health. So they have a long history with this. Awesome. So if you're interested, we can ask them to help us do one of these.
Great. Yeah.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. Have a great finish to your week, and we will see you all next time. Bye now.
Thanks, Art.
Yep. Bye.
Thank everybody for attending.